Hi everyone, I've decided to chat to you today again about tummy sleeping. I am so happy to be able to share with you that maybe last week I did a live feed on how to convert your babies from being tummy sleeping to back sleeping. And if any of you have converted your baby since watching the video, please pop up a post and say it's you. In our Facebook, in our chat group where we help parents, there is quite a few people who I have personally been helping in the last week or so to convert their babies. People whose babies were waking in multiple times during the night for feeds when they didn't need to, but their bedding wasn't correct and causing the waking, and people whose babies were tummy sleeping. And a lot of these parents had said the same thing. I've tried everything. I've tried all of your advice, and my baby just is tummy sleeping and I can't convert them. And it's the same sort of, I get the same impression that all these parents are absolutely terrified of thinking that their baby's going to overheat and die of SIDS. I beg you to go to your country's website with information on SIDS and SUDI and see. If your baby is sleeping on their back with their face and head uncovered with cotton or bamboo blankets on top. Never put bamboo under your baby because they get too hot and sweaty. It's okay to put a bamboo sheet, which is a cotton bamboo mix, but don't put something like a bamboo sleeping bag on your baby because they get too hot and sweaty and you can't use the right bedding. You know, wool, don't put your baby in wool sleeping bags. Don't put your baby in bamboo sleeping bags. We've tried it, they get too hot, they get too sweaty, and then you cannot use the correct amount of bedding to help your baby sleep safely on the back. So these parents had all sort of said that they'd try and try, but when I chatted to them, they were terrified of adding extra bedding in case their baby got too hot and died from being overheating. Now, this kind of frustrates me because go and look, contact your local research people, contact in Australia Red Nose Day and ask. Don't ask the person on the phone, ask them to email you the statistics of how many babies. Ask them to get their librarian statistics of how many babies have died in Australia in a cot using bedding, correct bedding as in bamboo or cotton blankets. How many babies have overheated? You will find a very interesting answer. I'll let you do that little bit of checking. Nathan and I one year received some information from, Nathan's my husband, from SIDS and Kids, and I'll have to find it and maybe pop it up, but I can't remember the exact amount and temperature and so on, but a baby had been in the Netherlands in a sleep sack, so a sack made from sheepskin, and they had a red bar heater in the room pointed at the cot, and the room was ridiculous. I can't remember if it was like 46 or 50 degrees, but the room was ridiculously hot. But we looked at each other and went, that's not overheating. That's called roasting a baby. You have to get it really wrong. You have to leave your baby parked in a parked car with the windows and doors and everything shut and the car reaches to, that is roasting your baby. That's getting it really wrong. So I'm just so happy that my video the other week has caused so many people to convert their babies to sleeping better, as in no longer needing night feeds, and sleeping on their back. Now, I don't know everyone who's watching this will know the history, but I had a little brother, Richard, and I can still remember the night when he passed away. And actually the evening, it wasn't night time, it was still daylight when he passed away from cot death. And a little while later, I can't remember exactly, and I'm looking at this book because this book is from Anne Diamond. Anyone who's from Ireland or the UK who will have watched Anne Diamond growing up as a child. I'm just looking in 1991. So Richard died in 1981. So this is 10 years later. So I would have been about 17 when Anne Diamond's baby died, which is amazing that it was 10 years later, but I feel like it was about the same time. So Anne Diamond was a TV presenter, so a bit like Australians looking at Carl from the morning show. Anne Diamond was a TV presenter and her little boy Sebastian passed away from cot death. And Anne Diamond is the person who went on and on and on about the Back to Sleep campaign. She was contacted, or her husband was, because obviously they found it easier to contact her husband. It's all in that book. The book is called A Gift from Sebastian. So Anne Diamond was contacted by somebody who had discovered babies in New Zealand weren't at the same risk of babies in the UK passing away from SIDS and cot death. Now, I remember something either in that book or she might have said it in an interview where a certain number of babies were going to bed healthy at night and not waking up in the morning, and the general feel was, you can just have another one. It's okay, you can just have another one. And she said if that was 21-year-old boys, girls, uni students, people would be an outcry. People would be saying this is wrong and we need to do something and we need to find out what these children are dying from. But it was just, you can have another one. You're still at the age where you can have more kids. And that was a similar thing for mum. It was like, well, at least it wasn't one of the girls, lots of people said, which is absolutely awful. Like as if it would make any difference because the girls were all older. You know, people, they try to help, but they say funny things. But anyway, when Anne Diamond's baby died, it felt like we weren't alone. And that is odd because it was 10 years later, but it felt like we weren't alone. And I decided at that point, I wanted to help keep babies safe from SIDS and cot death. Now, so I did lots and lots of looking into things. One of the big things was there was somebody, again, I think it was in New Zealand, who decided that you should wrap babies' mattresses in plastic. And if you wrapped babies' mattresses in plastic, the babies didn't die from SIDS. Now, that research people have since done research to show that that's not true. Again, I'm not a scientist and I don't know exactly what research was done. But I presume it was something along the lines of, this guy was saying every baby who slept on a mattress or every wrapped mattress that he sold or created wrapped mattresses, babies sleeping on them didn't pass away from SIDS or cot death. So he believed that it was the chemicals in the mattress that was causing the babies to die of cot death or SIDS. Now, they've done research to prove that that's wrong, that the chemicals in the mattress aren't the cause of SIDS. However, I look at it a different way. So I look at it as if they were wrapping the mattresses in plastic, this would cause the babies to be really, really warm. If you've ever tried sleeping on a plastic mattress protector or on plastic, you get really hot and sweaty. So if a baby's lying on a wrapped mattress, they're going to be really hot, hence they're not going to flip to their tummy because cold babies flip to their tummy. So was he right? But I think, was it the case that because wrapping the mattresses in plastic was keeping these babies warm, the babies weren't flipping to their tummy, so that's why babies sleeping on his wrapped mattresses didn't pass away from SIDS, or the formal name was cot death. Anyhow, now we also hear time and time again people saying, well, I slept on my tummy and it never did me any harm. Well, you know, I could stand here and say to everybody, I went to Ireland as a child in the back of a car on a mattress with cuddly toys around me. That's where I travelled. There wasn't enough seats in the car for the whole family, so I travelled in the back. We call them estates. I think you call them station wagons. I travelled in the back. We went on autobahns in Germany. I could stand here and say, well, you know what? You can all take your kids to Germany and go in the autobahns. You don't need car seats. It didn't do me any harm. I wasn't in a car seat. We know better now. So people who say it's okay for babies to roll to their tummy and sleep on their tummy, it didn't do us any harm. I slept on my children on their tummy. I can guarantee you that my mother's age of parents, my mother's age, their children may have survived. However, other children in their neighbourhood will not have survived. They will all know somebody who had a baby who passed away from SIDS. Now, SIDS has reduced. It's reduced considerably. We know if you keep your baby in smoke-free pregnancy and smoke-free environment, it reduces the risk of SIDS. We know that if you use the correct bedding, it reduces the risk of SIDS. We know if babies sleep on their back, it reduces the risk of SIDS. However, why are maternal health nurses, doctors, paediatricians all saying once your baby can roll to their tummy and they've got a strong head, it's reduced, so don't worry about it? Does it make sense to me? Yes, it is reduced, but babies still die. Babies die of SUDI up to the age of 2.5. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just saying, don't risk it. Don't risk it. Like, if a maternal health nurse came up to me once and said, what you're preaching is wrong. You're telling parents to keep the babies on their backs. Once babies can roll to their tummy, the parents can leave them on their tummy. And I said, why? And she said, because it's reduced. The risk is reduced of SIDS and SUDI once a baby can move. And I said, How many babies a year die between the age of 6 months and 1 year from SIDS or SUDI? She gave me a number, and I said, how about we walk around this baby and toddler show and get that many children, line them all up, and you can pick that one. You can pick the reduced rate statistic. You can pick that one that doesn't make it through the night. And she was like, okay, I see your point. So if you have a baby who is tummy sleeping and you have tried absolutely everything, and you can't convert them, there's, I feel for you, and I know that you can't convert them, and I know that this is probably not very nice me preaching about it. However, people had said to me on here and in my chat group that they couldn't convert their babies, and I worked with them, and if you go in there and see, I have managed to get them to convert. So sometimes it isn't too late. Sometimes it is too late for your particular child. But what I really want to get across is, from day one, use the correct bedding. Rip off your breathable mattress protector, unless it is the brand which I endorse, and replace it with a cotton towel. Even if mattress protectors say they're breathable, they still make babies hot and sweaty. Then the baby gets sweaty, then they get cold, then they flip to their tummy. If a baby doesn't have enough bedding, they will wake multiple times during the night. If you keep getting up to a baby who naturally should be sleeping through the night, but they're not warm enough, and you're getting up to them, you are now sleep deprived. It is dangerous. When you're sleep deprived, it's like being under the influence of alcohol. You shouldn't be driving a car when you're that sleep deprived. Now, one of the mums in the last week who has managed to convert her baby has just put up a thank you. So thank you very much. If more of the mums who've converted their babies can put posts up, that would be absolutely fantastic, because people think it's not possible, and it is possible. It's hard work, but it is possible, and I just don't think it's worth the risk. I do understand if you go to your health professional and say, I don't know what to do, my baby's rolling to their tummy at night, they're going to say, well, the risk is reduced. I understand that, because they can't say, okay, I want you to go home and try this and come back to me tomorrow. Then I want you to go and try this and come back to me tomorrow. They don't have the time. I'm lucky. I've got the time. I've got the time to help you. I've got the time to talk to you. When I'm talking about blankets on babies, I'm talking about this type of blanket. It is, you can see through it. It is a bamboo cotton cellular blanket, or we've got the beautiful heirloom bamboo blanket. They provide weight and warmth. It's about getting the combination right. Babies come out of the womb, it's 40 degrees roughly in the womb when you take your body fluid and you take the baby's body temperature and then all the moving about. It can get quite hot in there, and it's very tight. Babies come out of there. They're used to being like this. We know that babies are born before they're ready to be born. We know that babies come out sort of a trimester early, and I try to get parents to copy that. Copy what it feels like in the womb when they're out, by using the correct bedding in a bedroom and helping their baby to feel safe and secure. So, please take from this, it's not okay to tummy sleep your baby. If you've tried everything, really have tried everything, you've watched my video in the link above, and even when you go to the maximum amount of recommended layers with the minimum clothing, so they're like 0.5 tog sleep bag underneath and just a nappy, and you still can't convert your child, if you've done all of that, then I do believe that there's nothing you can do and the risk is reduced. However, if you haven't tried all of that, I beg you to try all of that, because it is possible to convert your children. Okay, and it is safer for them to sleep on their back. SIDS and SUDI is reduced. SIDS is sudden infant death syndrome. SUDI is the sudden unexpected death of an infant. I believe that the difference is SIDS is when a baby dies and there's no explanation as to why the baby has died, and it's put down to SIDS. Sudden unexpected death of an infant, which is SUDI, is when they sort of can tell they sort of can tell what the baby's died of, like the baby's rolled over and it's on its tummy. And it's often the very first time the baby rolls over that they do accidentally come to harm in their cot. It is that they can sort of, so they'll find a baby in a cot maybe with a beanbag toy, or they'll find a baby in a cot pushed up against a cot bumper, and that's put down as a sudden unexpected death of an infant. It used to all be put down as SIDS, but it's as if now they can't prove the reason, but they're pretty confident what the reason is. I don't understand why in autopsies they can't yet prove exactly whether it's SIDS or SUDI, but at least it's not all coming under the same umbrella now. So at least if they go in and they find a baby was sleeping in a, you know, some babies are put into Velcro straps to hold them on their back, and then they manage to twist round and get onto their tummy. See, if you need to Velcro your baby down to keep them on their back, there's got to be a reason why they're trying to get to their tummy, and most likely they're not cozy enough. They don't feel safe and secure. They don't have enough weight in them. You will have heard people talking about weighted blankets and how it helps children to sleep. Well, the bamboo in my blankets is like weighted blankets. It helps babies to sleep. So, you know, so they may have gone in, found this baby who's sleeping in something, some large bit of Velcro holding them down on the mattress. The baby's managed to flip to its tummy, but is now trapped face down on a flat toy of some sort. So that would be, in the old, like going back 20 years, that would have been classed as SIDS. Now they class that as SUDI, the sudden unexpected death of an infant. That is my understanding of the difference. But yet they still can't prove the difference. And I'm not scientific or medical, or don't work in a coroner's court, so I don't understand why they can't tell the difference, but obviously there's a reason why they can't. So, as I said, please try to help your children. Now let me see there's a couple of questions that have come up. Let me see if I can read these. Cassie says, after watching my 8-month-old has been sleeping on stomach for a couple of months, now has been sleeping... Oh, I can't read the rest of it because it keeps coming up with, maybe if I give a thumbs up it'll... No, it won't let me read it. Okay, I'm going to have to go to my handy telephone and have a look. It looks rude because I'm looking down and find out what people are asking, because when I click on the Facebook live feed to see what you're asking or what you're commenting, it gives me all these smiley faces and stuff, and it won't actually allow me to read the questions, which isn't very helpful. So bear with me for a second. Okay, we've got 7 comments. So, Georgie J says, you're amazing, Tizzie, thank you very much. Cassie says, after watching this, my 8-month-old, who has been sleeping on his stomach for a couple of months, has now been sleeping on his back for the last 3 nights. Congratulations, Cassie, you're one of the converted babies. Thank you very, very, very much for sharing. Jackie says, thanks, Tizzie, for encouraging me to make my bub a back sleeper. I also think he sleeps better on his back as he moves so much less and looks comfy with his blankets, which again is fantastic to hear, Jackie, and thank you for sharing your story. Natalie says, I have followed your routines and my 1-year-old sleeps through the night perfectly. I used something, I'm not going to say what it is, which, well, it's just what I was talking about, which straps a baby. Stop it rolling. He is very unsettled now. He's not strapped. Okay, so Natalie, it would be great if you could join our Facebook chat group and have a look at the case study have a look at what other people have been doing in the last week to get their babies converted, because the reason why your little one is so unsettled is because they don't have enough bedding on them to feel safe and secure. So I would, for you, Natalie, I would remove your mattress protector if it's not the Save Our Sleep one and replace it with a cotton towel. I'm not sure where you live, but the video above will tell you what to put your child in. I'd make sure you've got the bedding, and I'd try up to the maximum amount. Isabella says, I thought SIDS is recently proven to be a developmental abnormality. So I think you're talking about the fact that they have found that some babies have an abnormality. I think it's called a P, something P, but correct. I'm not sure, someone else might be able to answer. So yes, there is research to say that the babies who've passed away from SIDS have something different about their mechanism. But what we know about this is that these babies, when they roll to their tummy and they become face down in the mattress, or they get pushed up against a cot bumper or something because they're cold and they're moving around the cot. What we know about these babies is that they breathe in and out the same air. It's like rebreathing. They breathe in and out the same air until there's no oxygen in it. And the developmental abnormality they have is they don't arouse. They don't realise that they're not getting oxygen, and they then suffer. They pass away. They don't suffer, they just pass away in their sleep silently. They don't suffer. There's no evidence that they've suffered as such, but that is what it is. So I went to a conference on SIDS maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm not sure whether this has now changed or is outdated. However, they were talking about doing tests with rats and mice in labs. They had discovered, and I think this is connected to this abnormality that you're talking about, they had discovered that in countries like Australia, your kids do a hearing test and they either pass or they fail. But they had looked at babies in Scotland who had passed away from SIDS. And the interesting thing is, in colder places like Scotland, more children do. So this overheating thing, and Ireland also has a large number of children who pass away. The overheating thing always amazed me, because it's like, well, why are they passing away in cold countries if it's overheating? But anyway, that's another subject. So they had found that babies in Scotland, the autopsies actually, well, the hospital records actually said how they had passed or failed their hearing test, and how much they had passed or failed their hearing test by. And they talked about how it looked like these babies, who they were looking back at their medical history, who had died from SIDS, they had just passed their hearing test in one ear and maybe had failed it in another ear. And then they, being medical and scientists and researchers, they had tried to cause the mice or rats to have the same ear issue. And then they had put them in sealed places, and they had dropped the oxygen levels and reduced the carbon dioxide levels. And the mice or rats, I can't remember which it was, who had the perfect ear and the perfect hearing, they reacted when they had less oxygen and more carbon dioxide, as the other mice didn't notice. And I think this has then led to Fiona, one of the researchers, and other people then furthering this research, and that's what you're talking about, where they found that these children have the abnormality, and I think it's connected to the ear. But so why am I saying tummy sleeping is not okay if they found an abnormality? Because if your baby has this abnormality and is at greater risk of SIDS, the risk is even greater when they tummy sleep. So we know they've got a triple thing where they look and, they say that cigarette smoke increases the risk, having a premature baby increases the risk, and a couple of other factors. Actually, male babies increase the risk, which is something I don't often like to say, because I don't like people to think, well, I've got a girl and then I don't need to worry about it. But so they look at the triple factor and, what boxes babies tick. And the tummy sleeping is a big one. And often it's the first night the baby has rolled to their tummy that they have had the accident. So yes, there is research to say that these babies have a developmental abnormality, Isabella, but if you sleep them on their back, then that developmental abnormality isn't going to be a problem. They're going to be safe if they're on their back. One day, they might do a screening in hospital and say, you need to be more careful with your baby, they've got the abnormality, and you guys don't need to be more careful. You can take risks of tummy sleeping because your baby doesn't. But I'm not sure that that would be a good situation to be in, because I think too many people would risk tummy sleeping. Anyway, I better go and do some work, but thank you all very much for listening, and hopefully we can convert some more tummy sleepers to back sleepers. And the other thing is, again, the extra bedding will also help your babies reduce their night feeds and sleep better through the night. Thanks for watching. Bye.